Chris, the ball was sloshing around. There was water splashing up the shorts. There were slide tackles going in. There were people falling over. I was at Old Trafford on Saturday night. It was chaotic, crackers conditions, 4 big incidents for us to discuss. I just want to ask you, first of all, as a referee, when the rain is teeming down, the players are sliding in and the water's sloshing up everywhere, do you have to adapt the way you take charge of that game? Do you sort of secretly love it as well because it's just a little bit different?
Yeah, you absolutely love it, don't you? I mean, every time you referee a football match, you love it, and sometimes the conditions are challenging and things can happen that are different. So you've got to take that into account. But at the end of the day, you've still got to referee a football match irrespective of what happens. You know, it could be snowing, it could be torrential rain, like you said. It could be a boiling hot day. So, yeah, you take it all into account and hopefully you can get through the game with not too much controversy.
Or falling over, because the worst thing for a referee and the best thing for the crowd is a ref falling over. That's like like their favourite thing. Let's split these incidents into red cards and then the other points afterwards, because there are 4 incidents to get into here on quite a controversial day. I mean, Robert Sanchez sent off for a denial of a goal-scoring opportunity. This was really early in the game. He rushed off his line. Sesko's flicked the ball on, and Burmo is chasing towards the goal. Sanchez comes out like Superman, and he brings him down. Now, look, it's straight red card. The referee, Peter Banks, doesn't really wait too long. He gave himself a bit of thinking time, actually, and then red card. Is there any way this isn't dogso? I heard some people suggest that there was a covering defender. I didn't think that criteria probably applied to this situation because there was literally an open goal. What did you think? Tell us.
Well, I think in the first instance, it's the right outcome. And I think Peter Banks, the referee, did really well here, along with his teammate, Eddie Smart, who was assistant 1. For the simple reason, Peter was a little bit behind play, but he worked an angle and he quite clearly saw the foul, but he needed the next bit of the information. And the perfect angle for this was where the assistant was standing on the touchline. He could quite clearly see that Mbeumo had got ahead of the covering defenders when the challenge was made. And he took his time, as you said, Sam, just that little delay, run it through your mind, get the additional information in, and he came up with the right decision. It is a red card for denial of goal scoring opportunity. There can be no complaints about that one.
Just explain to us what the criteria is, because people always talk about these sort of covering defenders. How close do they have to be to stop that from being the case?
Well, I think it's a case of, can they make a challenge for the ball? But in this situation, he'd gone past those, he'd gone by them, and his next touch was probably going to be a shot on goal. I don't think there was a clearer example of denial of a goal scoring opportunity. I've not heard too many discerning voices, in fairness, to say it was the wrong decision. So, credit where credit's due in this situation. And bear in mind as well, 4 minutes in, when you do your warm up and you get ready and you're running around, you've got to be ready for that big decision, irrespective of what time it came, and it came very early in this game.
Yep, it certainly did. It wasn't too long before he had to make another big one, though, because in the, I think it was something like 45th minute plus 5 minutes of added time, Casemiro was given a second yellow card and sent to the stands. Now, the first yellow card, I've got no complaints about, the challenge on Enzo Fernandes. The second yellow card, was the pull on Andres Santos enough for a second yellow? Was it enough for a yellow in isolation? And could you manage that situation better? Bearing in mind the game state, the fact that you've already sent off one player, the conditions the way they were, you could hardly stand up at that stage because the pitch was starting to get very, very soggy. Was there anything he could have done to avoid sending off Casemiro, or did he have to?
I think he had to. I watched this game and I have to say I really enjoyed it. And when I actually saw the first challenge, that was, stonewall yellow card, nowhere to go for Casemiro. When you see the second challenge, he's actually got 2 arms round him. It's not just a fleeting glance. He's got 2 arms round him. And when you actually stop the picture and look where he is, I don't think there's any other defenders round him. He's got clear space to run into, Santos. And it was a clear hole in a fence. He can't have any complaints with that. I mean, I looked at it and thought, could you manage it? Is that one where you can manage it? And I looked again and I thought, no, as I said, 2 arms round him, clear holding offence. He's got places to run into with the ball. He's away. It was a really cynical foul, and I don't think Casemiro can have any complaints with that one, Sam.
So, when you're refereeing a big game like that, do you consider the context of the game when you're deciding to show a second yellow card? Are you under pressure to treat a second yellow card slightly differently from a first?
No, what it does, it generally hits you in the pit of your stomach. You can tell. You don't really need much thinking time with situations like that. It was clear. This one was clear. I don't have a problem with it. He stops that promise and attack. The holding is there. It's sustained. I don't have a problem with that one.
Okay, obviously Casemiro's an experienced player, but he does love a red card every now and again. Does player reputation play any part when you're making a decision like that?
No, not at all. You have to judge everything on what you see on the field on the day. You can always pre-plan for a game. You give it a lot of thoughts where the flashpoints may be, but what you never do is you can never prejudge. You can only referee what's in front of you. Might sound a little boring, but that's what it is. You referee what's in front of you and you punish the foul.
Okay, so that's the red cards out the way. Let's go to the other controversial decisions in this game, because this is probably gathering more attention than even those red cards. And that is the VAR check on Bruno Fernandes' goal and the João Pedro incident where he was challenged by Mazraoui and wasn't given a penalty. Let's start with the VAR check. Bruno Fernandes scores a goal. Chalobah's back heel seems to be level with his T-shirt line. Now, there is a lengthy delay. The linesman on the assistant referee on the far side, Eddie Smart, has a clear line of vision here. He can see everything, but it is very tight. Semi-automated technology is supposed to speed this up. Why did it take so long?
Interesting. I think what we've said this season, it's about getting the big decisions right. And sometimes, checks will take a little longer. Maybe there was a number of plays in there that caused the delay. But listen, there was a delay, but the semi-automated has kicked in. And it's found that he was actually offside, so we can't really complain about that. We've wanted this technology, and it's here now. We trust the technology, we trust the people using it, and albeit it's really tight, it's offside.
Okay, you say we trust the technology, but when we see the graphic of this, we look at it, and it's not entirely clear as to which part of Bruno's body has kept him onside, because Chalobah's back heel looks in line with the shirt of Bruno, and the T-shirt line we know is up here. So where did the offside graphic sort of help us there when we were trying to discern whether or not this was the right decision or not? How has the VAR looked at that and gone, yeah, definitely that is onside?
Yeah, I think when you look at it, when you look at the graphic, people will talk about that. And I think that just sometimes proves how tight these offside decisions really are. But the technology tells us that it's offside, and we have to go with it.
Do you think, though, there probably should be a stricter time limit on VAR checks? Because when you're in the stadium, and I was in the crowd on Saturday night, people were getting a little bit irritated. They celebrated the goal. They're waiting for it to be clarified. There's a VAR check, and I turned around and gone, I think he's fine or whatever. And then all of a sudden, like, we're sitting there going, well, maybe it is going to be overturned. You never know that Chelsea might get away with it or whatever, or Man United might get a goal here, or, there's people have started to go, well, what's happening? Yeah, there's not much communication in the crowd, by the way.
No, we've had, there's been lots of, discussion and debate about VAR, and we discuss it every week, don't we? People are saying, should there be a time limit? But this was a factual decision. You're either on or you're offside here, and it was checked, and that was done. Sometimes they do take longer, I think. This season, VAR checks have been speeded up, but when we get one now, it sort of stands out a little bit. But it's about getting that big decision right, and as I said, we trust the process.
Okay, all right. So let's go for another controversial decision where you're going to annoy Chelsea fans, because João Pedro goes down in the penalty area. This is 33 minutes into the first half. He dribbles into the box, into the inside left channel. Mazraoui comes across, commits a challenge. Chelsea think it's a penalty. VAR checked it, says there's not enough for a sufficient foul. He got a slight touch on the ball here. Does that get him out of trouble? Why was this not given as a penalty, and do you think it should have been?
When you're refereeing, Sam, there's always clues on a field to offences, and there was a massive clue with this decision, and the massive clue was the ball. The ball clearly deflects. You can see the toe. He toes the ball away from him. That is the clue. That's exactly what the referee sees in that situation. I made a point of looking at this. I looked at it several times and I couldn't understand the noise around it. I just thought the tackle was fine. Clearly plays the ball. And, I think had the referee have been given a penalty in that situation, he may well have gone to the screen, because I just don't see a penalty in this situation.
Yeah, I mean, I think having watched it back several times, the one thing that you notice when you watch it from the face-on angle is that as the challenge comes in, the ball does go in a very different direction to what it was travelling previously. So that is your cue, that is your marker for the referee to decide that actually he's got a touch on the ball. So I suppose when you look at it from that angle, you realise that there's no clear evidence to overturn the on-field decision.
That's it. I mean, when you look at the position of the referee, that's exactly the angle he sees. The clue is always the ball. The ball deviates away where he toes it. Is it a clear error by the referee? No, it's not. So, sometimes you've got to give credit where credit's due, and I would say that wasn't a penalty and a good spot by the referee.
Okay, but is there some suggestion that occasionally defenders hide behind the idea of a minimal touch on the ball while still getting something on the attacker?
Sometimes that can negate it. Yeah, if somebody flies in with speed, intensity, and sort of skims the top of the ball and takes a player out, you may see a challenge like that in the middle of the field. I've got the ball, ref, but you've actually just touched the top of the ball and gone through and made an excessive force challenge. So each and every one's decided on and adjudicated on its own individual merits.
Well, I think you sorted out those decisions, Chris. The big game of the weekend certainly was Arsenal-Manchester City, but in terms of incidents and VAR calls, there's no doubt that Old Trafford got our gaze.